Let's settle in, getting mind and body together. Insanda Sangarab Shidi Sempema Karajibami Shuna Susur Yutna Tatenga Saso Katanamanam La So Ade. Omi and Chikinki Putani Dusun Sangi Klingi Mowani at Sensual Sultan Sepa. So in a Meshak La So Ade. All right, so let's start with our bodhicitta motivation, thinking about the suffering of beings. What is all the racket out there? That was the bathroom door. Oh, okay. Um, uh, so we want to start with our bodhicitta motivation, thinking about the suffering of beings. And bodhicitta means awakened mind, heart, and it is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings, with the understanding that the cause of suffering is this fundamental ignorance that we have about the nature of reality, the nature of the self, and that the way to get rid of that is by attaining enlightenment. But it's not just that, it comes from compassion, and we need to really have compassion in order to have true bodhicitta. So when we see the suffering of beings, I'm laughing because it's like just sort of noise everywhere. Um, uh, when we see the suffering of beings, we naturally, hopefully, have some kind of compassion for them, right? Whether it's our loved ones or strangers or, people we see on the news and so forth. So that compassion is really good, right? It's what we need, but it's not enough. Yeah, it's not enough to be free from cyclic existence, which is why we need that wisdom aspect. So bodhicitta combines these two things, and we try to do everything with a bodhicitta motivation and anything positive, particularly Dharma study or Dharma practice. We want to have a bodhicitta motivation. Okay, so please try to do that to the best of your ability. At least thinking, may the time we spend together this morning benefit not only ourselves, but others as well. Okay, so today I've been asked to talk about impermanence. Okay, and I know that we talked about death and dying a few weeks ago. We're going to talk about impermanence in general. I'm looking for probably a talk I gave on that. Mhm. Here we go. Okay. So the question is, um, from a Buddhist standpoint, right? Why should we even be interested in impermanence? Yeah, it's a major um, topic or subject in Buddhism, considered really important. The Buddha called the contemplation of impermanence the king of all practices. Um, why? Because at its root, the understanding of impermanence is a tremendous aid in lessening our own suffering. And it's a tremendous aid to understanding the true nature of reality. Okay. It isn't as if the Buddha discovered impermanence, like everything was permanent until the Buddha came along, right? That doesn't make any sense. Okay. Um, but it's just the way things are, right? It's the nature of reality. Impermanence is everywhere, often hiding in plain sight. You know, when we lose a loved one or a friend, or reach 40 or 60 or 70 or 80 or however old we end up being, or attend our child's graduation, we see impermanence at work in a really obvious way, right? Things change, life changes. Um, but rarely, if ever, do we notice the that everything in our entire life is impermanent and is changing day by day, right? Second by second, millisecond by millisecond. We have the perception that our body is the same body we had yesterday, right? But it's changing every second. We, as my teacher likes to point out, right, if there's a change in a year, there must be a change in a month. If there's a change in a month, that means there's been a change in a week, a change in a week, a change in a day, in an hour, in a second, in a millisecond, right? Everything is changing all the time. It's just that we don't really notice it. Yeah, typically. I mean, even this building that we're in is changing. Yeah. Every day it's decaying a little bit. And anybody who has a house knows, right, that you need to keep it up and it's a pain in the butt and very expensive and so forth. Yeah. Or your landlord needs to keep it up. I mean, imagine like you see like houses and buildings that haven't been maintained, the earth starts taking them over, right? They start being covered in weeds and plants, and the bricks start crumbling down and things like that. Yeah. So there's this like physical changes in our body, physical changes in the world, but our minds change much faster than our bodies do. Yeah. 2 seconds ago, we may have been thinking about a trip to Hawaii, and then we're planning dinner, and then we're remembering our first love. It just jumps all over the place. Yeah, very, very quickly. Understanding or realizing the nature of impermanence of our own bodies and minds helps to relieve our suffering. Okay. We start to realize the wisdom of the Buddha and other great masters when they teach that we should not be attached to ourselves. We don't need to cling so hard to the quote unquote me we are now, because that me is in a constant state of flux. Yeah. This realization brings an incredible amount of freedom. Really, it's extremely profound. It might seem really small because, like, it's not particularly, it doesn't seem, I should say, particularly deep. Yeah. It's impermanence, everything changes. So what? It doesn't sound, and it's certainly not hard to understand intellectually. We can all very easily understand that. But the profundity comes when you really start to contemplate the ramifications of that. What does that mean? That everything is impermanent. Like, what does that mean for ourselves? What does that mean for how we see the world? What does that mean for how we suffer or don't suffer? Right? So, the Buddha's very first teaching, which again we talked about recently too, because we were talking about the Four Noble Truths, excuse me, was called the Four Noble Truths. Yeah. These are the truth of suffering, or actually dukkha, which means unsatisfactoriness. Yeah, remember, which covers the entire spectrum. Yeah, from being mildly uncomfortable to, you know, being flayed alive physically. Mentally, from being a little tired to being in total and complete despair, yeah, and everything in between. So the truth of unsatisfactoriness or suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the cessation of suffering, and the truth of the path that leads to the cessation of suffering. So in the first, regarding the first truth of suffering, that there is suffering. Okay, so would the Buddha have to say, why would the Buddha have to tell us like there's suffering? Like we already know. Like Buddha, dude, we already know, guy. Stop. And but we do know, but we don't know at the same time because we're not paying attention to these small things. Yeah. So in that there is suffering truth, right? Uh, he talks about several types of suffering. Okay. The suffering of suffering, which is, what we all as English speaker mean when we say suffering, right? Being very sick or this kind of thing, we would use the word suffering. We wouldn't use the word suffering for being a little thirsty, right? But that dukkha covers that whole range, okay? Uh, so there's the suffering of suffering, there's the suffering of change, and then there's the all-pervasive suffering, which means things like just by virtue of having a human body, we're gonna suffer because of it. Yeah, we get sick, we have pains, eventually we die, things like that. Like it's not anything we're particularly doing, it's just existing, right? So I want to talk about that second one, which is the suffering of change. Yeah. The suffering of change is twofold. First, we can't hold on to things, okay? They always change eventually. And this is like such a huge suffering for us that we really need to recognize, okay? The beautiful sunset fades into night, the flower wilts, the relationships dissolve, a loved one passes away. That's the first of it. Yeah. And second, any pleasant experience we have, if continued long enough, will eventually turn into suffering. Yeah. This proves that pleasant experiences are not the cause of lasting happiness. Yeah. Lasting is the operative word there. Right. Certainly, pleasant experience can bring us temporary happiness for sure. Having a cold drink of water on a hot day is very pleasant. Right. But that's not going to bring us lasting happiness. Okay. Temporary happiness. We're looking for lasting happiness. How can we be happy all the time, essentially? Right? Which is a very interesting question. It sounds really naive, but it's quite an interesting question. So, what does that mean, actually? If we enjoy doing something and we don't stop doing that thing eventually becomes suffering. All right. So, it's a simple example, drinking water. Yeah, it's very nice to drink water when you're thirsty, and it's very nice to stop drinking water when you're not thirsty. But if you continue drinking water, you could die from water intoxication. Okay. Or the example I always give is like, which I get so hot, I don't even want to think about it, but taking a bath, right? So if we're taking a bath, we look forward to that. Even like I'm not really a bath person, but some people are and they really enjoy that and they put on the candles and the nice music and the little bombs, flower bath bombs or whatever the hell people do. And you're in there for like I don't know how long. I do take a bath from time to time, but there always comes a moment when I'm like, what am I doing in here? Like, like my skin is wrinkled. I just want to get out. The water's like getting weird and, all of that. And you want to get out. Imagine somebody forced you to stay in there. If somebody's sitting on the toilet with a gun pointed at your head, like, you have to stay in the bathtub. It would not be, it just turns into suffering. Okay. So that's not to say, like, you know, oh, we shouldn't try to enjoy ourselves or we're not allowed to, do pleasant things. It's not that at all. It's just saying don't look to these outside things for your lasting happiness. And this is a huge mistake that we make. Yeah. It's a habitual mistake that we make that only causes us to suffer. So this is why the Buddha is saying, like, hello, knock, knock, this is how things actually work. It's not how you think, right? So if we have some examples of that, like people will say like, oh, if only I could get my dream house, I would be happy, you know? And then they get their dream house and they're happy. I don't know. It depends on the person, I guess, a couple weeks maybe, really happy, like I finally got it, I finally moved in, I got everything, and then the roof starts to leak, you know, or then they find out, they have really noisy neighbors, right? Or I don't know, they discover mold in the basement. Like there's always something, yeah. And then the thing is, like, we don't notice that, which I find really interesting. We have oodles of evidence that these outside things do not bring us lasting happiness. But as soon as we like start to suffer because of these things, or yeah, as soon as it like the sort of dream like fades or whatever, we never go back to reach the right conclusion. We never go back and say, wow, I thought this house was going to make me happy all the time and all my problems would be gone. We would not say that anyway. We don't say that because it sounds ridiculous, right? But that's really how we're thinking if we pay attention. Yeah. I won't have any more problems. Once I get this house, you know no rent, and I can get away from whatever neighbor I didn't like, and finally start, getting some equity, and it's going to be awesome, and we think unconsciously this, I won't suffer anymore. And then we start to suffer. And instead of going back and examining and coming to the conclusion, oh, this did not bring me lasting happiness, we hardly notice, and we just start looking for the next thing immediately. Start looking for the next thing. Oh, I need a new car, And then we go on. Or it's not just physical things like a house and a car, it's also like a job and a relationship and, all sorts of anything that's outside of ourselves. Yeah. Why can't all those things bring us lasting happiness? In part because of impermanence. It's impermanent, you know? These things are impermanent. So everything is like that. And we suffer because we have a mind or an expectation that's going against the reality of things. All right. So, like right now, it's around 80 degrees outside in mid July. Okay. If I sat here and I told you guys, I'm so upset that it's not snowing outside and dark. Like, why? That's what I want. You think I'm nuts, right? Because it's not in line with reality. Like, it's just not. You're not going to have snow in July, at least not yet. Maybe in 20 years we'll have snow in July. Who knows? I hope not, but right. So that's what we do when we expect our iPhone to last forever. When we expect, and if you think, Palmo, I don't expect my iPhone to last forever. I'm not an idiot. Okay. Are you going to be surprised if you pick up your iPhone and it's broken? Or you pick up your iPhone and you didn't realize that the battery completely died and it's just black no matter how much you're poking on it, right? If you're surprised by that, you have not realized impermanence. Okay. I'm saying you, but just I do this kind of stuff all the time. Okay. If we really absorbed and digested this truth of impermanence, yeah, we would not be surprised at all when our phone gets broken or when somebody breaks into our car or when a loved one or somebody dies. Like, we're shocked. And it is shocking, right? It's shocking when a young person dies or when, you know, there's so many sad stories out there, right? When you know, expected your spouse to come home and they didn't come home because they died in a car accident, you know, it's shocking. Of course, we're going to be shocked. But if we truly grasped and digested and realized the truth of impermanence, we would not be shocked. We would be sad, for sure. But we would not be shocked, really, even for something that huge. But people even get shocked when people who are 98 years old pass away. Like, bro, she was 98. Like, what'd you think was going to happen? You know, right? Okay. So understanding impermanence, contemplating impermanence, trying our best to wrap our heads and our hearts around impermanence is actually so good for us and is going to make us suffer less. Okay. It's going to make us suffer less because we have realistic expectations that are in line with reality. Okay. Right. So we're not so again, like it doesn't mean we can't enjoy pleasurable experiences. Of course we can. But it does mean that we'll suffer much less if we do not cling to them as something permanent. In fact, without clinging, our pleasure is greater because it is without tension. And we're able to experience it fully in the present moment. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I remember when I first got my dog, Omani, who has since unfortunately passed away. Best dog in the world. Fight me if you don't agree. I will fight you. I mean, I got him as a foster in the beginning, and it's called being a foster fail. But I just ended up keeping him. But especially after I decided to keep him, I was like, I almost crying for like the first 2 weeks because I just, dogs just don't live it long enough, you know. And I figured, in all likelihood, he would die before I did. Right? Dogs should just die the same time you do. Like, I don't care, you know? Um, and I was really like, it was just heartbreaking to think of Omani not being here anymore, even though I had only had him a short period of time. But after that, once I realized I was thinking that way, I was like, well, why are you like pre-suffering? Like you're pre-ordering your suffering, I'll take two, press the button, right? You don't have to do that. Of course it's impermanent. Of course anything can happen. I could die tomorrow, but it it it's likely that he would die before I did. Okay. And I just thought, why don't you just use that information to appreciate him more, you know? And that's what I did. I was like, okay, this relationship that we have is not permanent. And so when he, you know, made a mistake, which was honestly almost never, you know, I just could let it go because I'm like, we're not gonna be together that long. And we can do that and should really do that with all our relationships, right? Married couples, who've been together a long time. Instead of waking up in the morning and looking over at your partner and going, you again, right? Yeah. Because it's understandable, okay? But if we keep impermanence in mind, then we wake up in the morning and we look at them and realize like they're still alive, they're still with us, You again, you know? Oh, that's great, right? We could think like that and we could enjoy them without that tension inside, maybe they, will die, maybe they'll divorce me, maybe they, whatever it is, whatever insecurities come up, you know, could just less suffering like that, less suffering. It's impermanent. Even the best, most incredible relationship you can imagine, which, like, sorry, doesn't exist. Um, if you'll still have to part, you'll have to separate because one of you will die before the other one, typically. Yeah. And it's gone. Not to say nobody should have relationships. How dare you get married? No, just to say, realize this impermanence and it allows us to love better also. Yeah. Excuse me. Itchy. Okay. All right. Okay. So, from the Buddhist point of view, contemplating impermanence is also an aid to doing our spiritual practice. Yeah. We realize that life is short, that death is certain, but the time of death is uncertain. So, this spurs us on to do as much as we can in this life to progress on the spiritual path for the benefit of others. Yeah. I mean, this is quite interesting because it's like that is the one thing in our life that we can be absolutely sure is going to happen. No question. Nobody's walking around consciously thinking they're going to live forever, right? But subconsciously, oh yeah, we're sure we're going to live forever. There's no question. I'm not going to die. What? You know? Mm-mm, right? We we know this will happen. It's undeniable fact that we will die. But we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to prepare for it. We've got to prepare. We have to prepare. And we have to do that now, right now, not right now. That's today. Go home and start, you know, right? Because we don't know. The youngest of us could go before the oldest of us. Okay. And are we going to leave our family with all of our plans? And also, like, depending on your family, like, how are you trusting that to them? Bunch of weirdos, you know, right? We got to plan. We got to do the will. We have to do the advanced directives. We have to figure out what we're going to do with all our junk, right? Especially if we're older and we have adult children, you know, please think of them and get rid of your junk. It's very hard on them in the midst of their grieving and the time that they have to spend to do the funeral and call all the companies and, you know, the grave and all that stuff. Plan that stuff too, pre-plan it. Then they know you're getting what you want. And it's a huge stress lift off their shoulders. What does he want? You know, what kind of casket? What kind of service? What kind of music? What kind of officiant, if any? Cremation, burial, you know, pardon me, composting is allowed in Ohio now. Woo-hoo. Yeah, I want, well, ideally, what I want is mushroom suit. Have you guys heard about this? I hunt mushrooms, and there's this suit that's its homemade. I don't know if you can buy them. I don't know if it's like a prototype or something that actually exists, but it's like a suit that you put on the dead body that is like infused with the spores of mushrooms that particularly like to eat human flesh. Yeah. And you just put this suit on and they put you in the ground and just all these mushrooms come up from you. I know. It's awesome. That's really what I want. Barring that, I would like, yeah, composting if possible, or there's something called water cremation. Aquamation, thank you. Yeah, this is great. Also, this is because the cremation is like very bad for the environment. All these chemicals go into the air and the heat and all the energy used in that and stuff. So, um, water cremation is like they put your body in underwater and then do they put some kind of solvents in there? Yeah, and there's like vibrations, like the thing like vibrates, and you end up with kind of ashes. Yeah. Oh, really? See. So she was saying the water. Luva says, love mushrooms, but may never eat again. I'll serve you the mushrooms that come from my own body. Skyberry would be nice if you had vultures around. Around here for a skyberry? Oh yeah, turkey vultures. Yeah. I was You got to cut it up though. You got to do that. So somebody, because I know people. Uh, yeah. Okay. I don't think that's probably not legal in America. Yeah. There isn't. So there is not. I checked into it. You could have a funeral home. I think it's in Illinois or Indiana or something. There's one. You can have a funeral home transport your body to that state that has it, and then they can do it and then bring the remains back. But it's hugely expensive. And the reason that people don't want aquamation is, guys, drum roll, money. Okay. Yeah. So the cremation industry doesn't like this whole idea of aquamation. And so there was this, I think it was a funeral director, I don't remember, or a politician, ugh, who argued against it because he was paid big money by the in Ohio, or argued against it. So anyway, we've been talking. I know people on YouTube can't hear the conversation, unfortunately, but we've been talking about aquamation, and you should look into it if you're interested in that. It's very, very interesting. And we've been talking about something called sky burial, which is a traditional in Tibet. They do everything and anything with the body once the consciousness has left the body, unless the person is like a great master. They really don't care what you do with the body. And do They can do cremation, they can just leave it in a charnel ground, just leave it outside. They can put it in water, which is, not the best idea in Tibet, especially because it's not like there's an ocean up there that can just, but anyway, um, they can bury it, or they can do something called sky burial. And sky burial involves specially trained monks, I think, usually, who chop up the body, and then vultures come and eat the body. And it's called sky burial because they go up into the sky, right? And honestly, I don't even know it would be good for the birds at this point, with all the microplastics and chemicals and things like that that we have inside our body. Huh? Yeah. So anyway, so uh, back to the subject at hand. Um, right. So this idea of impermanence spurring on our spiritual practice, knowing we have this incredible opportunity called a precious human life in order to practice, in order to really progress on the path towards enlightenment, but we don't know how long we have, and we don't know what we have waiting for us in the future. So sometimes people hear this teaching on impermanence and they see it as something really negative. But fortunately, impermanence also applies to our painful experiences, which is another way the contemplation of impermanence helps us to suffer less, right? Our headache, our sore knee, or even our grief will eventually change. Yeah. And even in the midst of the strongest emotion, if we pay attention, we will see that it's changing all the time, actually. Especially if you think about something like grief, it seems so heavy and sort of solid and like monolithic and that. But it's not. If you pay attention, there are moments where the light comes in, you know. Maybe you just remember a funny story with this person and you start laughing, and then you feel guilty, oh, I'm laughing, No, I don't feel guilty. That laugh is a gift from your loved one, you know. Um, uh, so we identify with a particular mood because that's the majority of what's happening in our mind, again. But if we watch, as I said, these things can change. In addition, the truth of impermanence is what allows everything to happen. Yeah, nothing can grow without impermanence. Yeah, children can't become adults without impermanence. Yeah. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote that impermanence makes all things possible because everything changes. There are seeds and flowers, children and grandchildren. A static world would be a dead one. Okay. So contemplating impermanence even helps us develop love and compassion for all beings. Right. To have limitless compassion, which is what is asked of us, which is not easy, right? And there's a recognition that it's not easy. But to have limitless compassion, we need to develop some sort of impartiality, some sort of equanimity, so that we're able to extend ourselves beyond this small circle of who we consider friends and loved ones. Yeah. And we start doing that. I mean, one of the ways we can start doing that is by noticing and acknowledging the changing nature of relationships. Yeah. So we have a tendency to forget that our loved ones were not always our loved ones, that our so-called enemies were not always our enemies. Yeah. That, strangers become friends, friends become, lovers, lovers become strangers, you know? Like if you think about, past romantic relationships you had, especially if you're older, you might not even know if that person's dead or alive anymore, you know? And you thought when you were together, like, oh, this person, my whole life, I love them so much, right? We'll never be separated, darling. Okay. But we get separated for whatever reason, you know, right? So, okay. So if our relationships are not solid and permanent, yeah, if they're changing all the time, then what basis do we have for labeling someone as friend and some as enemy? We can say, well, their behavior. Yes, okay, but their behavior changes. This person that you currently hate with passion, you might have loved so much, and like that often changes, right? Love to hate. In a relationship in this person, whether they're a friend or a romantic partner, they learn everything about you, right? So they know just where to press to hurt you the worst. Yeah. And they do that either on purpose or they just betray you by, cheating on you or all kinds of other ways that people betray each other. Yeah. So impermanence is also the factor that allows us to develop intellectually. If there was not impermanence, couldn't learn anything, right? Physically and spiritually. We may not be as loving, as patient, or as compassionate as we'd like to be, but we know, thanks to impermanence, that if we try, we can develop these qualities in our heart. All right, so let's do some meditation now. We're gonna start with just mindfulness of breathing, and then we'll go to the uh, analytical meditation on impermanence. So if you're sitting on the floor or on your bed or whatever, cross your legs in whatever way is comfortable for you. If you're sitting in a chair, there's feet on the flat on the floor in front of you. All the other instructions are the same. Hands can be palms down on your knees, resting one on top of the other in your lap like that, or with your fingers like that. Okay. Back is straight. Back, the neck is also straight. Arms are relaxed. Okay. Mouth is, shoulders should be back a little bit. So mouth is closed but relaxed, tongue resting on the roof of the mouth. Breathing through the nose. Ideally, your eyes should be open, looking down in front of you. A relaxed, lowered gaze. So bring your awareness to the sensation of the breath coming in and out of the nose. And that's what we're going to be focusing on, okay? Now just bring your awareness to that sensation and try to maintain continuous awareness of that, letting your thoughts come and go. We're not trying to stop thinking. It's very important to know. We're just trying to not run after every thought that comes up. Thought will arise, dwell, and disappear on its own. Okay, so please begin that now. I'll start to count the breaths, counting either every in breath or every out breath for a total of 10 complete breaths. Counting is an aid to helping us realize more quickly if we've gotten distracted. So please start that now. If you get distracted, just bring your mind back. Start again at 1. If you get to 10, just start again at 1. Okay, so please start that now. Okay, now we're going to move into the contemplation of impermanence from this book, How to Meditate by Kathleen MacDonald. Okay. Begin by turning your awareness to your body. Think of its many different parts, arms and legs, skin, blood and bones, nerves and muscles. Examine them one by one. Contemplate the nature of these things, their substance, their texture, their shape and size. Be sensitive to the body at work, the movement that is occurring every moment, the ebb and flow of your breath, the beating of your heart, the flow of your blood, and the energy of your nerve impulses. Be aware of your body at the even more subtle level of its cellular structure, that it is entirely composed of living cells coming into existence, moving about, reproducing, dying, and disintegrating. On an even subtler level, all parts of your body are made of molecules, atoms, and subatomic particles, and these are in constant motion. Try to really get a feeling for the change that is taking place every moment in your body. Now, turn your attention to your mind. It too is composed of many parts: thoughts, perceptions, feelings, memories, and images, following one after the other ceaselessly. Spend a few minutes simply observing the ever-changing flow of experiences in your mind, like someone looking out of a window onto a busy street. Don't cling to anything that you see in your mind. Don't judge or make comments. Just observe and try to get a sense of the impermanent, ever-changing nature of your mind. After reflecting on the impermanence of your inner world, your own body and mind, extend your awareness to the outer world. Pardon me. Think about your immediate surroundings, the chair or mat or bed you're sitting on, the floor, walls, windows, and ceilings of the room, the furniture and other objects in the room. Consider that each of these, although appearing solid and static, is actually a mass of tiny particles whizzing around. Stay with that experience for a while. Then let your awareness travel further out, beyond the walls of your room. Think of other people. Their bodies and minds are also constantly changing, not staying the same for even one moment. The same is true of all living beings, animals, birds, insects. Think of all the inanimate objects in the world and in the universe: houses and buildings, roads, cars, trees, mountains, oceans and rivers, the earth itself, the sun, the moon, and the stars. All of these things, being composed of atoms and other minute particles, are constantly changing every moment, every millisecond. Nothing stays the same without changing. Conclude the meditation with the thought that it is unrealistic and self-defeating to cling to things as though they were permanent. Whatever is beautiful and pleasing will change and eventually disappear. So we can't expect it to give us lasting happiness. Also, whatever is unpleasant or disturbing won't last forever. It might even change for the better. So there's no need to be upset or to reject it. Dedicate your positive energy and insight to the happiness of all living beings. I mean, thank you. So, while we're accepting generous and much appreciated offerings so we can afford to keep going, those of you on YouTube, there's a bunch of links in the description here where you can make a donation also. Of course, it's not required, right? It's a, what do they call it? A love offering, a free will donation, but it does help us so much and we really, really appreciate it. We got to pay rent here. We have, we got to pay for the website. We have all sorts of different expenses that come to bear. Right? So, okay. So please, yes. So now we're going to do, and thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. And if you weren't able to, that is fine. Okay, so I'm going to say these closing prayers, starting with the long life prayers. If it's not your jam, that is fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. And for meditation, we just say these in English. Okay. So we start with the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and then below that, and then we go to the right. Okay. In the celestial realm, encircled by snow peaks, you are the source of every happiness and benefit. Tenzin Gyatso, Avalokiteshvara himself, may your lotus feet remain firm for 100 eons. Om Swasti, in the vast expanse of your fearless wisdom, shine the 100,000 cooling light rays of your all-pervading great love, dispelling the anguish of beings in this degenerate age. O supreme jewel of space, regent of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, remain with us continuously, we pray. Om Swasti, through dependent causation and the blessings of the infinity of long life deities, may Pema Wangel, prophesied magical emanation of the Takwin Sutra, be firm in body, speech, and mind like the king of the sounding drum, Amitabha. May the great waves of his wishes for the teachings and beings spread out to their ultimate extent. We pray for the good health of the lamas. We pray for their precious lives to be long. We pray for their activities to spread and increase. May we be blessed, never to part from them. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May you defeat the enemy of wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may I free all beings. May bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen, may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world, ever absorbed in the display of divine forms and primordial awareness, appearance, sound, and perception in the state of divinities, mantras, and dharmakaya. May I, inseparable from the practice of the profound and secret great yoga, attain within the essence of mind the state of one taste. And then we do this mantra. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manubalaya Vajra Tattva Tenoba Tishandrito Me Bawa Suto Kayo Me Bawa Suto Kayo Me Bawa Anurato Me Bawa Sarasidi Me Prayasa Sawakam Sutta Me Chitam Shriya Kuruhun ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sawatata Gata Vajramane Munsa Vajribama Samaya Sattva. Okay, so before I let you go, I have a couple of announcements to make. So let's see. Yeah, so next week, on Sunday, um, is our last meditation before summer break. Okay. So summer break goes from July 26th through August 16th. Okay. So we won't be having meditation during that time. I will also put it in the newsletter because I'm going to be in France visiting our teachers. Okay. The Buddha Days will continue with Melina leading and also the Soks. Um, uh, this Tuesday is non-binary day and a Buddha Day. So we meet for the Buddha Sadhana on Zoom from 6 to 6:30. It'd be great if you could join that. The 18th is some kind of special practice day, Chuko Duchen, the Buddha's first turning of the wheel of Dharma. So we're going to do something on Zoom that day, but I'll put it in the newsletter. Whoops. Um, and then, and then we also next, so this Wednesday and the went 2 Wednesdays after that. Wait, yeah, are Buddha days. So it goes like that sometimes where it happens the same day of the week, like 3 times in a row. So those will be at 6 o'clock. Um, uh, then we have a new class here. The current class ends next week, and then on September 16th, we have a 12-week class called Women in Buddhism. It's going to be really interesting. Um, you can even register it right now. We're working out a few kinks on the website, but if you wanted to register for it now, you are welcome. The page is up thanks to Sandra and her help. Um, so 12-week course covering a variety of topics related to women in Buddhism. So history of Buddhist women, sacred beings, great masters, ordained nuns, women practitioners, and more, like the feminine principle and all this kind of stuff. We're not going to have a text for that. We're gonna assign you readings online. So this just doesn't seem to be a book that's like covers everything. So I want to kind of do that again, which is what we're doing for the current course, and it's working quite well. Please don't think that you have to be a woman to attend this class. It's really important that not just cishet women attend the class. Okay, it's really good for everyone to learn about the importance of women in Buddhism, about these great masters, and so forth. Okay, so don't let the fact that it's a woman focused keep you from doing the class. Okay. What else? I think that's it for the announcements. Beyond saying thank you so much for joining this morning. Thanks everybody on YouTube for coming in. We really appreciate you. Okay. All right. Thanks. Have a good bye.